Howard Hughes, the Sky King who rewrote aviation history. He vanished for weeks, built planes in secret, then shattered every record the world had. Howard Hughes wasn't just rich, he was obsessed. While other pilots played it safe, he pushed metal and engines past their breaking point. His plane hit speeds that seemed impossible, that he flew distances no one thought could be done. And he did it all with a recklessness that nearly killed him multiple times. But here's what they don't tell you. His greatest record almost stayed buried forever. Howard Hughes was different from other rich men. He didn't just buy planes. He built them. And he flew them himself. In the 1930s, most people thought aviation had limits. Hughes didn't believe in limits. He had money. He had time. And he had something else. An obsession that consumed him. While other millionaires played golf, Hughes locked himself in hangars. He worked with engineers through the night. They designed aircraft that looked like nothing anyone had seen before. His planes were sleek, fast, dangerous, but Hughes had a problem. The aviation records of his time were held by military pilots and daredevils. These men had years of experience. They had government backing. Hughes had neither. He was just a rich kid from Texas who loved speed. At least, that's what people thought. They were about to learn something different. Because Hughes wasn't just building planes. He was building something that would change aviation forever, and nobody saw it coming. In 1935, Hughes started a project in secret. He didn't tell the press. He didn't tell other pilots. He barely told his own employees what he was planning. The project was called the H-1 Racer. This plane was revolutionary. It had a design that reduced drag. Every curve, every panel, every rivet was placed perfectly. Hughes spent over $120,000 of his own money. That's millions in today's dollars, but here's the strange part. He wasn't building it for money. He wasn't building it for fame either. He was building it to prove something. The H-1 had retractable landing gear. This was rare back then. The body was smooth, almost like a bullet. The engine was powerful, but the real secret was in the details. Hughes obsessed over weight. Every ounce mattered. He used flush rivets. He refined the shape and wind tunnels. His team thought he was crazy, maybe he was, but on September 13, 1935, everything changed. Hughes climbed into the cockpit. The engine roared to life, and then he did something nobody expected. Hughes took off from Martin Field in California. The plane moved like lightning. Smooth. Fast. Unstoppable. He flew a measured course. Officials watched from below. Timing equipment tracked every second, and then the numbers came in. 352 miles per hour. It was a new world record. The fastest any plane had ever flown. Hughes had beaten the previous record by more than 30 miles per hour. People were stunned. This wasn't a military plane. This wasn't a government project. This was one man and his obsession, but Hughes wasn't satisfied. During that same flight, something went wrong. The fuel system failed. The engine started sputtering. Hughes was still in the air, going hundreds of miles per hour. He had seconds to decide. Bail out or try to land. Most pilots would have jumped. Hughes didn't. He glided the plane down. He crashed into a beet field. The plane crumpled. Dirt flew everywhere. When rescuers arrived, they expected to find a body. Instead, they found Hughes walking away. Bruised, but alive. And already planning his next flight. 3 years later, Hughes did something even bigger. He decided to fly around the entire world. Not just fast. Faster than anyone ever had. On July 10, 1938, Hughes took off from New York. He flew a Lockheed Super Electra. It wasn't his own design this time, but he modified it heavily. He had a crew with him. 4 men. They would take turns flying, navigating, and monitoring the engines. The route covered 14,791 miles. They would cross oceans, they would cross continents. They would face storms, mechanical problems, and exhaustion. The previous record for flying around the world was over 186 hours. Hughes wanted to cut that in half. People said it was impossible, too dangerous. Too ambitious. Hughes ignored them. They flew from New York to Paris. Then to Moscow. Then to Alaska, then back to New York, and here's the crazy part. They did it in 91 hours and 14 minutes. Hughes had just shattered the around-the-world record. He cut the previous time by almost 100 hours. The world went insane, but Hughes? He barely celebrated, because he wasn't done yet. After his round-the-world flight, Hughes went quiet. People thought he was done with aviation. Maybe he'd focus on movies or business. Or his other obsessions. They were wrong. Hughes was working on something massive. Something that would take years. Something that people called impossible. He called it the Hughes H-4 Hercules. The world called it the Spruce Goose. This wasn't a racer. This was a cargo plane. But not just any cargo plane. It was the largest plane ever built. The wingspan was 320 feet. Longer than a football field. It was made mostly of wood because of wartime metal shortages. Critics laughed. They said it would never fly, too big, too heavy, too ridiculous. Hughes spent years building it. Millions of dollars. The government questioned him. The press mocked him, but on November 2, 1947, Hughes decided to prove them wrong. He climbed into the cockpit. Reporters watched from boats nearby. They expected another publicity stunt. Maybe a short taxi test. Hughes started the engines. All 8 of them. The plane moved. Faster. Faster, and then it lifted off the water. The Spruce Goose was airborne for 26 seconds. It flew about 70 feet above the water. It traveled roughly 1 mile, then Hughes brought it back down. Smooth landing. No problems. People argue about this flight even today. Some say 26 seconds doesn't count. Others say it proved Hughes right, but here's what matters. Hughes flew the largest aircraft ever built. He did it on the first try. And he did it when everyone said it couldn't be done. That flight never happened again. The Spruce Goose never flew after that day, but Hughes had made his point. He wasn't just a rich eccentric. He wasn't just a movie producer. He was a serious aviator who pushed boundaries nobody else would touch. His speed records stood for years. His round-the-world record inspired generations of pilots, but there's something darker in this story. Something people don't talk about much, because Hughes' obsession came with a cost. A personal cost that nearly destroyed him, and it started with the crashes. Hughes crashed a lot. The H-1 crash was just the beginning. In 1943, he crashed a plane into Lake Mead. He survived. In 1946, he crashed an experimental reconnaissance plane in Beverly Hills. The plane exploded. Hughes was pulled from the wreckage with severe burns and broken bones. He nearly died. Doctors gave him morphine for the pain. Lots of it. That's when his addiction problems started. Hughes became paranoid. Obsessive. He isolated himself from people. His mental health deteriorated, but even broken, even addicted, even paranoid. He never lost his love for aviation. His records remained. His innovations changed plane design forever. Retractable landing gear became standard. Streamlined bodies became the norm. Hughes proved that private innovation could compete with governments and militaries. He showed that one person with enough obsession, enough money, and enough courage could rewrite the rules, but at what cost? His later years were spent in darkness. Isolated. Afraid. Alone. The man who conquered the skies became a prisoner in his own mind. Howard Hughes died in 1976. By then, most people remembered him as a recluse. A strange, sick old man who lived in hotel rooms. But pilots remembered something different. They remembered the records. They remembered the H-1 racer, now sitting in the Smithsonian Museum. They remembered the round-the-world flight that proved long-distance aviation was possible. Hughes' designs influenced commercial aviation. His obsession with speed and efficiency became industry standards. Even the Spruce Goose, the plane that only flew once, proved that massive cargo aircraft were possible. Today's military cargo planes owe something to Hughes' crazy experiment. His speed record of 352 miles per hour stood for years. His techniques for reducing drag are still studied, but maybe his greatest record wasn't about speed or distance. Maybe it was about what one person could achieve when they refused to accept limits. Hughes was flawed. Deeply flawed. His obsessions hurt him. His addictions destroyed his later life. But for a few incredible years, he owned the sky, and nobody has ever quite matched his combination of vision, courage, and reckless determination. The records may be broken, but the legend never will be. Howard Hughes changed aviation forever. His aircraft pushed boundaries nobody thought possible. From simulator-tested designs to real-world speed record achievements, he proved what determination could accomplish. His distance record flights inspired generations of pilots worldwide. If you're fascinated by aviation history and the innovators who shaped it, hit subscribe. We explore more legendary stories like this every week. What record should we cover next? Drop your suggestions below. Thanks for watching, and keep looking up at the skies.